How do you plan for the future when the rules keep changing overnight? In today's auto industry, tariffs have soared from 2.5% to 27%. EV demand in the US is half of what experts predicted, and suppliers are bleeding cash from delays and policy shifts. Volvo's profit plunged 64%. BorgWarner is slashing jobs, and even Toyota is hedging every bet. So how can automakers survive in a world where long-term plans last less than a quarter? Should companies go all in on electric or hedge across gas, hybrid, and hydrogen? And what does all this mean for the cars you might buy next? Let's unpack the chaos. Subscribe now so you don't miss the strategies shaping tomorrow's vehicles. Guessing what drivers will want in 5 years has never been easy, but now it's almost impossible. The automotive world is facing historic volatility, with automakers placing multi-billion-dollar bets in a landscape full of uncertainty. Electric vehicle demand has cooled, forcing companies to rethink projects they once rushed to fund. Why invest in EV plants when the market seems to be slowing down? Then there's regulation. One day we have strict Biden-era emissions rules, the next it's a Trump-style fuel economy free-for-all. How can you commit to building a new model when federal rules flip every election cycle? Trump's fluctuating import tariffs also act like a handbrake on investments. As a result, product planners are stuck in a tough spot, unsure of what to build, where, or when. According to Bank of America's 2025 Car Wars report, the next 4+ years will be the most uncertain and volatile time in product strategy ever. How would you make billion-dollar decisions in a climate this unpredictable? What does this mean for the cars we'll see on the road? But uncertainty doesn't just create stress. It forces real-time decisions that completely upend billion-dollar strategies. Big automakers aren't just talking about change, they're living it. General Motors pulled the plug on a $4 billion plan to make electric pickups in Orion Township, Michigan. Instead, they'll make gas trucks there, a pivot that costs $2 billion more, according to Crane's Detroit business. Over at Ford, they've canceled a 3-row electric crossover and pushed their full-size EV pickup further out. Then, CFO John Lawler summed it up. It's about being nimble and listening to customers. In other words, it's not about what looks good on a whiteboard, it's about what sells. Nissan, too, is adjusting. They've dropped 2 US-built electric sedans and delayed 2 EV crossovers. Christian Munier didn't mince words. It's disruptive to have one administration going one way, another administration going the other. And here's the kicker. Only 29 new models are forecast for 2026, making it the slowest model year in 30 years. Could this lull reshape your next car choice? Are automakers making the right bets, or playing it too safe? Canceling or delaying projects is one thing, but what happens when companies need to rethink their entire approach to planning? Not just the timelines? Let's talk about the shift from rigid roadmaps to flexible frameworks. In times like these, flexibility is everything. Michael Robinet from S&P Global Mobility puts it clearly, companies are planning day to day, long-term focus is gone. With regulations, demand, and supply chains all shifting, how can automakers possibly make solid 5-year strategies? Stephanie Brinley, also from S&P Global, believes the answer lies in multi-propulsion vehicle architectures. Automakers need cars that can support gas, hybrid, and electric options, all on the same platform. Expensive? Absolutely, but necessary. What would you rather have, one perfect plan or 3 good ones? Toyota's approach says it all. According to SVP Cooper Erickson, they plan for gas, EV, hybrid, and hydrogen all at once. We start every game with the bases loaded, he said. It's not about perfection, it's about being ready to pivot. But overcommitting in one direction kills adaptability. Erickson warns, we try to avoid that. Do you think more automakers should follow Toyota's lead? If you're enjoying this, hit subscribe and keep the momentum going. Every decision an automaker makes ripples through the supplier network. When a project is canceled or delayed, it's not just one plant that feels it, it's hundreds of parts makers too. Dan Hirsch from Alex Partners puts it bluntly, you go from being a participant in the economy to a hostage. BorgWarner is a perfect example. They went big on EVs, but now they're selling their charging business and consolidating battery production into a single South Carolina plant, cutting jobs to save $100 million. How do you invest in the future when the rules keep shifting? Suppliers also worry about stranded capital, where they build infrastructure for an EV part that never goes into production. Add a shaky trade policy, and the risks multiply. Would you double down on EV parts in this climate, or hold back and risk falling behind? Steve Horaney from MEMA says even minor launch delays create chaos. Suppliers rely on stable timelines, but with automakers constantly redrawing roadmaps, stability is a luxury no one can count on. Now let's shift to Europe. Volvo Cars just posted a steep Q2 profit drop, but still beat expectations. Shares rose 8%, but that's only because analysts expected even worse. Tariffs and weak demand are dragging them down. The numbers are eye-opening. Volvo's operating profit plunged to 2.9 billion Swedish crowns, down from 8 billion a year earlier. Tariffs alone include a 27.5% hit on cars entering the US and 25% on parts, steel, and aluminum. How can any company maintain margins like that? They also took a $1.2 billion impairment charge tied to launch delays and tariff costs. Gross margins dropped to 13.5%, down from 18.2% in Q1. That's a major blow, even for a premium brand. Volvo responded by cutting 3,000 jobs, pausing investments, and bringing back former CEO Huygen Samuelsson to stabilize operations. But is this just damage control or the new normal? What happens when your global playbook suddenly stops working? Let's talk tariffs. Since January 2025, Trump's Liberation Day tariffs have skyrocketed average rates from 2.5% to 27%. That's not a typo, it's the highest in over a century. On April 2nd, Executive Order 14,257 declared a trade emergency, invoking the IEEPA to justify massive hikes. How do you build cars affordably under those conditions? Even worse, these moves triggered a global market crash, and while some tariff hikes were delayed after quick talks with the UK, Vietnam, and China, the damage was already done. The Court of International Trade ruled against Trump in May, but stayed the ruling, so tariffs remain in place. This echoes the China shock, which cost 2.4 million US jobs from 1999 to 2011, per economists Otter, Dorn, and Hansen. But now, instead of imports flooding in, we're seeing prices rise and demand fall. So what's the right move? Protectionism or global cooperation? For automakers, the landscape has changed. Trade isn't background noise, it's front and center in every product plan. EVs were supposed to be the future, but political crosswinds are shifting that path. In 2024, forecasts projected EVs would reach 48% of US car sales by 2030. Now, Bloomberg NEF cut that to 27%. The International Energy Agency went even lower to just 20%. Why the sharp decline? Because GOP lawmakers are gutting EV incentives. That includes the $7,500 consumer credit, manufacturing subsidies, and even charging infrastructure funding. Battery investments are stalling too. According to the Rhodium Group and MIT, EV manufacturing announcements slowed to a crawl in the first quarter of 2025. $6 billion in projects were canceled. That's not just a pause, it's a red flag. Meanwhile, globally, EVs are booming. In 2025, 22 million EVs will be sold worldwide, with China taking 2/3, Europe 17%, and the US just 7%. Even Thailand and Brazil now outpace the US in adoption. Surprised? In a world where billion-dollar auto strategies crumble overnight, one thing is clear: adaptability isn't optional. It's survival. As tariffs surge, EV demand cools, and regulations flip with elections, automakers must ditch rigid roadmaps for agile playbooks. Gas, hybrid, electric, hydrogen? Every option is on the table. The future may be uncertain, but the drive to innovate remains relentless. If you want to stay ahead in this evolving race, subscribe now and drop a comment with your take on the road ahead.